Bruce Helford, you served as exec producer during the original Roseanne run, and now you're back for the revival. Let's go to the beginning. How did you become involved in this much anticipated rebooting of the infamous Roseanne series?
I don't know if you, well, originally Sarah Gilbert had reached out to all of the actors, John Goodman, Roseanne. They all said, we'd love to do it. I got a phone call from Sarah and from Tom Warner, from Carsey Warner, who originally produced the show. And they said, would you be interested in doing it? And I said, yeah, why wouldn't I? I grew up in Chicago. It takes place in a fictional suburb of Chicago, Lanford, Illinois. And so it was really, for me, it was always about writing my childhood and about writing about the people that I knew in my neighborhoods when I was growing up. So I love the show. It was one of the highlights of my career. So I was happy to go back and do it again.
And what do you think about the way the show's been received? Critically, it's had some really great feedback, but commercially, it's just completely blown away everybody's expectations, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you the parts that are surprising to me. First of all of us were caught off guard by the size of it. The morning of the morning after the show first aired, I got a call at like 5 o'clock in the morning from Tom Warner. He's like, "Have you seen the ratings?" And I said, "No, I'm sleeping, but I'll be glad to take a look." And then I was like, "Whoa, come on, really?" And then, but what took me by surprise, and I'm really pleased about, is we have a huge rating number for 18 to 49-year-olds. A lot of young people who I'm assuming some of them grew up on seeing it on some of the channels and where it was in reruns. But a lot of people, I think, I attribute it to, I think people are ready for a show that's a bit more honest and a little bit more natural and not, kind of silly or sugar coated. Not that there's anything wrong with those kind of shows. That's fine. That's a different kind of entertainment. But to see something that's a little bit more gritty and substantial, I think people are ready for it. I'm just couldn't be more pleased, obviously.
You know what's really funny is that when Roseanne first hit the airwaves, a long time ago, the same could have been said back then that people were ready for something a bit more gritty and truthful, and that's why that was such a massive success. And then TV has changed so much over the decades, and yet here we are again with Roseanne back on TV, and it is an extremely refreshing and sometimes even confronting and very funny show again. Like, well, how do you explain that Roseanne is still kind of trailblazing that very honest and gritty, truthful type of comedy?
I think what the show always did best was it was never an issue show. We didn't like try to tackle issues. It's about the Connor family and things that are happening in the world around them and how that affects them. And I think that the things because we spent a great deal of time, Roseanne, myself, Sarah, all the writers, we sat down and talked about what's going on now that wasn't going on then. Well, one big thing was social media, obviously. So, and on the show, we talk about Roseanne is constantly taking the kids' phones and throwing them away out of the picture because she can't stand, she calls them screens, and she can't stand the distraction. And that's one thing. And also, for Dan and Roseanne, the pace of change in society right now is, I'm sure, arguably the most in the history of man. I mean, it's things changing faster than you can imagine. And for people their age, and honestly my age, it's really tough to keep up and to keep your balance in this kind of high technology, social change going like crazy. We dealt with the young boy and the fact that he kind of dresses gender neutral and all that. And it was just, these are things that I think everybody's kind of dealing with. And I think that it makes it relevant now, and I think that's why. And we don't pull punches, and I think that's really a lot of what it is. But it's really what the legacy of the show, like you say, what the legacy of the show always was. It was a groundbreaking show, always.
And I don't think there's ever been a show that truthfully portrays blue collar America like Roseanne does and still does. Why is that? Why have no other shows been able to really go to where this series has been able to successfully go?
That really stumps me. It really does. When I did the show originally, I was on the fifth season, 92, 93. And when I left that show, I did a couple of other shows. I started the Drew Carey show, and shows. And I was wondering when someone was going to start doing something like Roseanne, the next one, when Roseanne went off the air in 97. And it just didn't happen. I don't know whether or not there's a kind of proclivity toward writers wanting to write about different kinds of urban subjects. Everything also became, I think, with Friends and Seinfeld, things kind of became centered around New York, around urban centers, and it was just that was the direction and that was the trend. But yeah, the middle parts, there haven't been a lot. I mean, The Middle was a good show. Blackers is a wonderful show, but working class America really hasn't been represented all that much. And I'm sure that's also part of the reason for the success. People are seeing things that they can relate to.
Are you tired of all the talk about this show's connection with the Trump administration? Because the people want to talk about it all the time, and it was really hyped before the series premiered. But like, what do you think about that whole angle of how that show has tackled it, but in a different kind of way?
I'll tell you what's really been good about all this is, first of all, we definitely wanted to, we were interested in encouraging a discussion so that both sides are presented. If you watch the show, you see it's really very even-handed. We present all sides. And what I really thought was, if you read the reviews of the show, regardless of the position they took, I've never read more intelligent, intellectually stimulating reviews than about this show. Again, regardless of the position you took, people are writing about something, as opposed to this joke is hacky, that guy is silly, whatever. It's actually an honest discussion in amongst the critics and blogs and everything else. It's really smart, and people are backing up their discussions with research. And it was interesting. One writer did research about the Bill Clinton voters, which Roseanne and Dan were Bill Clinton voters back in the day. They kind of made comments about it, and what happened to those voters in 2016. And a huge number of them went for Trump, which was exactly where the show where we ended up going. But we didn't have that much detail about it, and it kind of proved out everything we our guts told us. But it's really wonderful to see the level of discussion that's going on about politics in America. I like that kids are getting more informed about politics. So if you're talking about the president, you're talking about what you don't like or do like about the president, the most important thing going on, intelligent discussion. Makes me really happy. It's like the old days with Norman Lear, with All in the Family and all those shows.
Yeah, that's a very, very good parallel. And some people were getting their knickers in a knot about that Roseanne might have been slightly for the Trump administration. Like, how dare she do that? And yet, like, we're trying to challenge people's views, and I think you guys are doing that beautifully. So, why not, right?
Yeah, thank you. What do you call it? The idea is to send out a balanced discussion. There's a lot of people on both sides, and they both decide. It's also, hopefully, everybody can kind of start laughing at themselves a little bit. People have taken this so seriously, and obviously for matters of the heart and matters that touch them personally, they should. But also, every once in a while, you got to step back and laugh at yourself when you get too serious, because you really, really have to maintain a level of civility in the discussion, and that's really important.
So talk us through the casting of the new characters, because I was just gobsmacked. The actress who plays Harris, who I remember from Shameless, it's like Darlene's been cloned, and then you've got the actor who plays Mark, who, as you said, is playing more of a gender neutral type younger character. Very different directions that you guys went in. Talk us through some of that casting.
We had wonderful casting director Susie Ferris, and they did a great job bringing us a host of actors. And honestly, with Emma, I was a big Shameless fan too. I am a big Shameless fan, and I said she so fits in our world. Not only just that the shows both take place in Chicagoland area, but she just so fits, and she's wonderful. I love her to death, and so she was great and fit right into the family. Mark Ames, the actor who plays Mark, he's a really bright young man, and so I've never had to not give notes to an 11-year-old. It's really you don't usually have that happen. He instinctively knows what to do. He knows where laughs are. I don't know where an 11-year-old gets to figure that out, but he really has wonderful honesty and timing. And little Jade is this great kid who plays Mary, DJ's daughter, and she's 6 years old. And I think for her, she's like constantly pinching herself, like, where am I? What's going on? I'm on this TV show with all these famous people. But the casting was, we wanted the kids to be very honest and natural. So like kind of like typical TV kids are a little bit more, kind of, I don't know how to say it, but it's like they're just a little too much. And so we went for kids who were a little bit more low key. and feel like they'd fit in the family, and they all really did.
I'm just speaking as a fan now. I grew up with Roseanne, the series. My sister and I and my family would watch it every day. We memorize episodes. Like I've got, a Stash from the Past behind me is one of my favorites of all time. To see those characters back on my screen when I saw the series a few weeks ago before it premiered was actually an emotional experience for me personally. And I'm wondering, given that you are so entrenched and involved in the show behind the scenes, what was it like on day one when filming started? I mean, was that a really interesting and emotional experience for you?
It was. I think that up until that point, the one thing about bringing a show back that was so popular back in the day is you want to keep the level up to what it was. You don't want to tarnish that legacy. So we were very, very intense right up to the table read. When it came to the table and all the actors were there and they started reading and everybody started laughing, we were like, okay, we're surrounded by the sets. We're back home. And the actors, if anything, everybody was even more in tune. I mean, the actors who were wonderful actors or are continue to be wonderful actors, and the younger actors as they've matured, like Sarah Gilbert and Lacey Goranson, have really gotten richer in their acting and the depth of their experience, but they never lost the characters. The minute that Darlene put on that leather jacket, punched her shoulders over, she was Darlene again. And when Johnny Galecki was on the show, he was that oversensitive kid again. And so we had just as much of a nostalgic feel as the fans did. The love of like, oh, this feels so good and so comfortable to do. And an interesting note is that nobody signed any options to do it again. The agreement was, we're going to do 9 episodes. If we love it, we'll talk about it, but let's see how we feel. And at the end of the 9 episodes, everybody, to a man and woman, said, let's do it again. So we're doing a second season.
Yeah, it's so exciting that you're doing a second season. What's also very exciting for me and for everybody, I assume, is to see all the old characters coming back. So we've just seen Estelle Getty return. I mean, I just spent the whole episode pretty much laughing out loud. She's such a wonderful, funny actress. So good. Who else can we expect apart from Estelle? Have you got any other surprises in store?
There's a few. Yeah, we're going to be, let's see, we've got Sandra Bernhard coming back. Yeah. We've got the actor James Pickens, who plays Chuck, coming back, and his wife Anne Marie. So we bring back a bunch of the gang. I'm sorry, the actress's name escapes me. The actress who played Crystal, is going to be back. Because she was a big part of the earlier days of the show as her best friend. So we've really got, it's like it's old home week every week. Everybody coming back and having Estelle back in the show was wonderful too.
It really was. So one last question. Can you remember what it was like back in the day when you were obviously younger and greener, to be on a #1 hit show, the frenetic pace of that show, and then can you explain how that compares to being on a show like this today?
Roseanne was the first show that I was ever the head writer and showrunner, and I'd never been handed that responsibility. And to boot, it was a #1 show in America. So it was like beyond even trying to be cool about it. I couldn't be. It was my thing was like, I've got to leave my mark. I want this to be the best season. And we were really fortunate. The 5th year, Roseanne won her Emmy. We won a Peabody Award, which before they were really given out very much for TV shows. So it's a journalistic award. We swept the Golden Globes in comedy. It was just one of those wonderful years. And it was, for me, very heady, but I knew that it wasn't obviously just what I was bringing. It was like I was coming into a show that had been built so beautifully and the characters so well defined before I ever approached it. I just added my own life experience to it. Now, the thing for me is, can we be as good as we were? Can the show be as good as it was? And so for everybody who's watching the show, we're working our butts off. We really are. The discussions are intense about what is said. To keep it honest as much as we can. Everybody's head is in the game and cares very, very much about the show. So, and hopefully that it shows for everybody watching it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bruce, congratulations on a really surprisingly excellent first season. It's very, very funny. And I think ultimately that's what we all want to see, something that's just going to make us laugh. So good luck at the Emmys and good luck for season 2 as well when we finally get to see that.
Thanks. Keep watching. There's like 3 or 4 episodes still to come that will definitely have people talking.
All right, we're all done.